The council broadcast their ultimatum in 27 languages, expecting tears, concessions, and surrender. Instead, Earth's ambassador simply smiled, stirred her tea, and asked, "Is that your final answer?" What followed wasn't a declaration of war. No, that would have been merciful. What came next was a lesson in why you don't poke a sleeping apex predator and then call it primitive. The Grand Hall of Arbitration smelled like ozone, wet crystal, and bureaucratic arrogance. Ambassador Leah Monroe sat calmly at the crescent table, her polished boots crossed at the ankle, a delicate porcelain cup of jasmine tea steaming between her hands. Around her, representatives of 12 species convened in what the Galactic Council generously called a diplomatic emergency response. The emergency, of course, was Earth's inappropriate reaction to the hostage situation on Argosy 9. A towering insectoid diplomat, Admiral Vorkov of the Ivorix Dominion, clicked his mandibles and narrowed his faceted eyes at her. "Human," he rasped, "your colony violated sovereign boundaries. We were within full right to secure and contain the site." Leah took a slow sip of tea. "You mean kidnap civilians, blockade a medical outpost, and threaten orbital bombardment?" Counselor Sizier, a jellyfish-like being suspended in a hovering fluid chamber, interjected in a soothing tone. "Surely Earth does not intend to escalate over a border misunderstanding." "Ah," Leah said, setting her cup gently on its saucer. "You're calling it a misunderstanding now. That's a step up from necessary enforcement." A low chuckle rose from the far end of the table, Ambassador Churuk of the Harkon Empire. His granite-like skin cracked as he leaned forward. "Forgive my candor, Ambassador Monroe, but Earth's emotional volatility is, well known. Perhaps this is an opportunity for your species to demonstrate restraint?" Leah smiled sweetly. And here I was, thinking restraint was precisely what we'd been demonstrating for the last 72 hours. The air shifted. Quiet, then tighter quiet. Korgoth, a broad-scaled enforcer from the Orith clans, folded his armored arms and sneered. "Your people are known for dramatics. Threats. Fireworks. But you lack the resolve to act." Leah met his gaze. "It's not resolve we lack. It's the habit. Humans aren't used to being provoked so directly. It makes us curious." The council chamber dimmed as a holodisplay flared to life. Footage from Argosy 9, civilians cuffed and holding pens, Dominion soldiers forcing medtechs to kneel. A teenage colonist pushed face down into the dirt. Cries. Silence. Then the screen blinked off. Leah stood. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't shout. She simply spoke like she was addressing guests in her living room. Argosy 9 was a humanitarian station. Those people were researchers, medics, children. The colony was established under council oversight with full transparency. Your so-called enforcement was a coordinated assault. And now you want Earth to remain calm? No one answered. She leaned forward, hands clasped behind her back. "Let me explain something you've clearly forgotten. Humans may be slow to anger, but when we respond, it's never impulsive. We don't throw tantrums. We plan." Counselor Sizier waved a tendril. "Let's not turn this into a melodrama. The council will offer reparations. A gesture of goodwill." Leah didn't blink. "We don't want reparations." "Then what does Earth want?" She tilted her head. "Nothing." Korgoth barked a laugh. "So you will accept the situation?" "No," she said flatly. "We simply won't negotiate anymore." Churuk narrowed his eyes. "Is that a threat?" "Not at all," Leah said. "Threats imply uncertainty. What's happening now is a certainty." A moment passed before the floor beneath them trembled, just enough to unsettle glasses and nerves. A message scrolled across the holographic table. Unregistered fleet signature detected entering Dominion space. Velocity, FTL+. Trajectory, Argosy 9. Counselors exchanged worried glances. Vorkov hissed. "What have you done?" Liao returned to her chair, stirred her tea with a tiny silver spoon, and said pleasantly, "I asked you earlier if that was your final answer. You said yes." Earth has simply responded. High above the crust of Argosy 9, the stars flickered unnaturally. The Dominion fleet, still stationed in orbital formation, didn't see what arrived. Their sensors refused to see. Every screen went black, systems locking with a message, Error 707, human input not found. Then the Arclight, Earth's newest warship, dropped out of stealth, coated in black light-absorbent alloy, flanked by AI-driven interceptors shaped like spears. It didn't broadcast threats or warnings. It opened with surgical strikes. Turrets melted before tracking. Drone carriers were bisected in a heartbeat. Dominion ships vanished mid-rotation, swallowed by kinetic killsats with no known origin. From the planet's surface, the hostages looked up at the flickering light show, deadly, beautiful, and silent. Sergeant Tessa Miles, a retired Earth Force Marine turned botanist, whispered into her comm, "Command, showtime?" A voice crackled in her earpiece. "Green light. All assets cleared." She cracked her knuckles. Finally. Within 90 seconds, 12 Dominion outposts were neutralized. Not destroyed, disabled. Earth's tactical approach was clinical, almost bored. They didn't waste energy on threats. They removed obstacles. The colonists walked free before Dominion ground forces realized their chains had been cut. Back in the Grand Hall, the display updated. Dominion losses, 43 ships. Ground forces neutralized. No human casualties. Colony secured. No one spoke. Liao took one final sip, placed the empty cup on the table, and turned toward the council. "We will not be seeking territory. Nor vengeance. This was correction. But let me be clear, if any species touches an Earth citizen again, we will not correct next time. We will erase." Korgith stood slowly, uncertain. This was all premeditated? Liao smiled brightly. "Of course not. That would be unethical." Pause. But it was anticipated. She walked out without waiting for adjournment. The chamber sat in silence, the council slowly realizing Earth hadn't just defended a colony. It had delivered a message, with manners. In the cold command chamber of the Ivorix Dominion's high spire, Supreme Strategist Keltor stood before a blinking array of defeat. The tactical display showed clean red lines slashed into pieces by something that didn't exist in any known database. No transmissions. No heat trails. No debris they could trace. Just loss. "Run it again," Keltor ordered. His aide, a twitching, multi-limbed analyst named Vuris, hesitated. "Sir, we've already." Again. Vuris tapped the console. The simulation looped for the 12th time that cycle, human vessels appearing mid-formation, cutting through defense arrays without slowing, ignoring protocol, ignoring fear. They never stopped to speak. They didn't pause to savor victory. They acted, and left silence behind. Keltor narrowed his black eyes. "There's no signature. No warning. How did they know exactly where to strike?" Vuris swallowed, gills fluttering. "We suspect premeditation. Embedded agents. Predictive modeling." "No," Keltor muttered. "This wasn't prediction. This was orchestration." Aboard the Earthship Moroshade, orbiting a dead star just outside Council space, Commander Adrian Rowe tapped the side of his mug. Black coffee, lukewarm, unflavored. He preferred it that way, reminded him of discipline. Across the table, an ensign shifted uncomfortably. Sir, with respect, shouldn't we return to standard protocols? Formal broadcasts, transponder pings, at least open hailing frequencies? Adrian raised an eyebrow. Why? To avoid escalation. We are the escalation. The ensign blinked. I thought we were here for observation. We are, Adrian said. We're just making sure the ones doing the observing know they're being watched. Behind him, displays flickered. Real-time telemetry scrolled past, ship movements, encrypted comms, weapon diagnostics. But Adrian focused on a single icon, a slow-moving Council relay drone, quietly logging human fleet vectors from 3 systems away. He tapped it with one finger. Let them record. Let them worry. At Galactic Intelligence Nexus 14, Council analyst Ziyun had stopped blinking for 12 minutes. He sat hunched in front of a growing web of inconsistencies, each line drawn by his own hand, each contradiction more troubling than the last. Earth had not simply reacted. The pattern said something else. Ziyun leaned back, eyes bloodshot. Computer, display all Terran non-combat activity over the last 10 Earth years. The list appeared, pages long. Most were innocuous on the surface: agricultural colonies, deep space research stations, terraforming contracts, language institutes, cultural diplomacy missions. But every one of them was within 30 light-years of a Council nexus point, a trade route chokehold, or a Dominion border. Ziyun felt his skin crawl. They weren't building colonies. They were building reach. Meanwhile, back on Earth, in a stone-walled chamber beneath the Andes, a place not even most Earth citizens knew existed, Director Mallory Voss of Strategic Continuity stirred sugar into her tea, unreadable as always. We've been too loud, she said calmly. Her assistant, Colonel Imani Chow, shook her head. Too effective, not too loud. There's a difference. They'll come probing now. Nervous predators test the fence before they charge. Chow grinned. Let them. We have more fences. Mallory said, nodding slightly. Still. Send a packet to Argosy 10. Accelerate phase delta. Chow paused. You're sure it's time? Time is irrelevant, Mallory said. They've seen the smoke. They'll start searching for the fire. Within a crystalline chamber aboard the Valari diplomatic station, Counselor Rilith of the translucent skin and spindled limbs tapped a clawed finger against the glass. The humans had always fascinated her. Unlike the other species that sought glory or profit or survival, the Terrans had played the long game. They'd charmed. They'd cooperated. They'd signed treaties no one expected them to honor, and then did. Now, the rest of the galaxy panicked at the revelation. Humanity hadn't been weak. They had been waiting. She turned to her aide. Send an invitation to Ambassador Monroe. Shall I include a request for cooperation? Rilith smiled, thin and cold. No. Just tea. Liao Monroe arrived 2 days later. No entourage. No guards. Just her in a silver case tucked under one arm. Rilith met her in the arboretum, surrounded by floating vines and pollen-glass lanterns. I expected you sooner, the Valari said. I arrived when I was needed. They sat. Earth's reaction has rattled the Council. Liao poured tea from the case, Valari blend, perfectly steeped. Good. They needed rattling. Rilith sipped. The Dominion is calling for sanctions. They'll get silence. And the Council? Liao stirred once, slow and steady. They should decide now whether they want to fear us, or join us. Rilith regarded her over the rim of her cup. That sounds like a threat. No, Leah said. It's an opportunity. The threat comes if they ignore it. Back in Dominion space, Keltor issued new orders, full deployment, fleet-wide scans, every satellite and drone committed to locating Earth's ships. But nothing appeared. Every system pinged back the same reply, clear skies. Viewers approached, trembling. Sir, I believe I've found something. Keltor turned. A hollow image hovered, a human cargo manifest. But the coordinates were all familiar, systems they'd dismissed. Worlds they'd overlooked. Cargo ships, viewers said. We thought they were agricultural. They're placeholders, Keltor whispered. Markers. For what? He stared at the blinking stars, one by one igniting a terrible map. For everything. Earth wasn't responding to threats. It had been positioning its pieces, smiling all the while. The game hadn't begun. It was almost over. In the cold dark of Sector Felmer 12, a derelict asteroid rotated silently, ignored by every passing patrol for nearly 2 decades. It had no energy signature. No mineral value. No heat. It wasn't even charted anymore. Until it blinked. A single blue pulse, brief, deliberate, encoded. And somewhere, hundreds of light years away, a human operative turned his head slightly, smiled, and closed the book he'd been pretending to read for 5 years. He's awake, said Colonel Imani Chow, eyes locked on the screen. Director Mallory Voss didn't look up from her tablet. How long? 3 hours. First ping's clean. Second, not so much. Response? He's already moved. Swapped identities, rerouted his biometrics, disabled the Dominion beacon watching his sector. Voss set her stylus down. Good. We'll need him. Agent Lynn Tarek stepped out of the mechanic's stall on Carthine's drift station, wiping synthetic oil from his hands as if it mattered. No one looked twice. No one ever did. That was the point. He passed through a merchant corridor, walked past a souvenir vendor selling authentic Terran socks that were neither authentic nor socks, and turned into an alley. Behind him, 2 cloaked Dominion spies followed at a cautious distance. He didn't change pace. Didn't turn. He just kept walking, until they were exactly where he wanted them. Then he vanished. A second later, one of the spies dropped, paralyzed. The other stumbled, confused, only to find a data chip in his pocket and no sign of the man he was tailing. The chip contained one sentence. You were watching the wrong colony. Back on Earth, beneath the Antarctic ice in the vault of preemption, servers hummed, reactors buzzed, and tactical algorithms began coordinating centuries of preparation. Humanity hadn't just responded to Argosy 9. That event had triggered Phase Delta, a contingency Earth designed not for retaliation, but for resetting the playing field. One of the AI cores, Designate Archive, compiled the following summary for internal use. Galactic Council Stability Index, down 23%. Ivrix Dominion Military Cohesion, fracturing. Civilian Trust and Central Trade Authority, disintegrating. Current human losses, 0. Phase Delta objectives, 8% complete. The AI paused. Then rewrote the percentage to 9%. A flare just went off in system viewery, caused by a Terran mining freighter accidentally discovering a long-forgotten relic site sacred to 6 neighboring species. By morning, 3 of them would be at war. Ambassador Leah Monroe stood at the edge of the Council observation deck, watching the stars. Counselor Sizier floated beside her, tension coiled behind polite gurgling sounds. You've destabilized the outer ring, he said quietly. Leah nodded. Only slightly. They're calling it chaos. No, she corrected gently, realignment. He turned toward her. This will unravel everything we built. No, she said again. It will reveal what you built. There's a difference. He watched her, then said, is this how humans define peace? Through manipulation and fear? Leah gave him a soft smile. Only when kindness is misread as weakness. Sizier floated silently. Then, hesitantly, how far will you go? Her answer was smooth, measured. As far as we're pushed. Admiral Keltor stared at the tactical display again. A second Earth colony, Argo 17, just triggered a full evacuation, 6 minutes before a Council-allied mercenary fleet raided the zone. How? How had they known? His claws dug into the command desk. This isn't war. It's humiliation. Behind him, Vuris spoke quietly. Sir? I think we triggered a protocol we don't understand. Keltor turned. Explain. Vuris gestured to a simplified chart, Earth's supposed trade routes, agricultural posts, and medical relief ships. But now, after backtracing signal latency and patterning human response times, something new had emerged. They didn't build infrastructure, Vuris said. They built traps. Decentralized. Passive. Hidden. Keltor's jaw tensed. They've been waiting. Longer than we thought. 2 systems away, a council envoy entered the ruins of Eleron 4. The planet had once been a bustling cultural hub, home to over 6 million Valari and a collection of species drawn to peace, music, and diplomacy. Now, its orbit was a burning ring of debris. Not a single missile had been fired. The planetary shield had failed. That was all. A critical server collapse. One tiny fault. That fault? A firmware update sent by a Terran courier drone 4 months prior. It had arrived with a bouquet of Terran orchids and a handwritten apology for delayed shipment. No one thought to question it. On the Valari diplomatic station, Rilith reread Leah Monroe's last message. There is nothing more dangerous than a species that only fights when it must. Especially one that learns silence before strength. Rilith knew, deep in her glass bones, that they were all too late. Earth didn't just play the game better. They had changed it. Far above Earth, beyond even its military satellites, a station blinked online, silent, dark, undetected. Inside, rows of drones activated. Some bore medical supplies. Others carried microsat arrays. One carried a file titled simply, Council Contingency 8, Reset Clock. The countdown began. Not to a strike. Not to an invasion. To a decision. One the galaxy didn't know it had already made. For most of the galaxy, Earth's retreat from galactic politics had been a mystery. They had arrived late, adapted fast, made alliances, then vanished. No fanfare. No collapse. Just silence. It had been easy to believe they'd failed. Primitive culture, emotional tendencies, short lifespan. Curious, clever, but not serious. The truth was worse. They hadn't disappeared. They had watched. Counselor Rilith stood before the newly declassified archives, her translucent fingers shaking as she scrolled through reports that had been buried under encryption seals and quiet vetoes. Project titles long ignored, signatures scrubbed, whispers of forgotten events. Project Dead Horizon. Protocol Umbra. The doctrine of disappearance. None had warnings attached. Just timestamps, locations, and small footnotes. Earth hadn't withdrawn out of fear. They had withdrawn to reset the board. And now, the board was tilting. In a chamber beneath Geneva, the last of Earth's silent council gathered. There were no cameras. No digital logs. No transmissions in or out. Only the 12. Each had once served as ambassador, general, strategist, or spymaster. Now, they were archivists of the doctrine, a doctrine Earth had never officially admitted existed. The doctrine was simple. Speak softly. Listen always. Strike only once. Disappear. Director Mallory Voss stood at the center of the table, fingers steepled. The Council has begun to trace the threads. Dominion forces are unraveling. Our timing is perfect. A former admiral leaned in. And when they come to the truth? Voss's smile was quiet. That is the truth. On Council Station near Axis, Ambassador Liao Monroe walked into the Council assembly wearing no insignia. Just a gray suit, hands behind her back. All eyes turned. No guards accompanied her. No files, no data, no entourage. Just her. Counselor Sizier began, voice restrained. Ambassador. You are not authorized to address the assembly today. Liao kept walking. A hush fell. You thought, she said, her voice calm, that Earth left because we were overwhelmed. You thought our retreat meant weakness. She stopped in the center of the chamber, gaze steady. But you never asked why we stopped playing your game. Silence. She gestured to the surrounding starscape, projected behind her. While you measured empires and fleets and flags, we built networks. Invisible ones. Not of conquest, of leverage. Korgoth growled from the upper tier. This is not a confession. This is a veiled threat. Liao turned to him with a polite smile. There's nothing veiled about it. On the Dominion front, Admiral Keltor stood before the remains of what used to be a listening array, now just molten slag. The techs had reviewed the data 3 times. The signal that destroyed the facility hadn't come from a fleet. It came from a low-frequency musical pulse. Human jazz. More specifically, a Terran transmission titled, Midnight in New York. It wasn't a weapon. Not directly. But it had triggered resonance in their crystal-based circuits. The damage was cascading, total. Are they mocking us? He whispered. His aides stared. Sir, they sent music. Keltor's eyes narrowed. No. They sent culture. That's worse. Back in the council chamber, Liao continued. You thought Earth was building ships. We were building exit points. From dependency. From your rules. From your chaos. She raised a hand. The stars behind her shifted, showing trade routes blinking out system by system. We were never outnumbered. We were unreachable. Counselor Rilith stood slowly. Why reveal yourselves now? Leah's gaze turned to her. Because you finally crossed a line. The colony? No, Leah said. The assumption that we'd tolerate it. Rilith frowned. Then what do you want? Leah's answer came gently. We want distance. The galaxy has proven it can't govern itself without blood. She turned to leave. And Earth is done babysitting. The assembly descended into chaos as she walked away, some demanding retaliation, others calling for diplomacy, and still more beginning to understand that no counterplay existed. Earth hadn't built an empire. They had built irrelevance, for everyone but themselves. From a hidden station near the galactic rim, Earth broadcast a final message across council space. It played once. Untraceable, unrepeatable, uncensorable. We came in peace. We still prefer peace. But peace is not the absence of war. It's the refusal to be controlled by it. Earth is no longer part of your systems. We won't trade, arbitrate, or intervene. We'll simply be elsewhere. If you come for us again, you will not find resistance. You will find emptiness. The kind that stares back. Far from the Council's core, in the void beyond the mapped lanes, Earth's newest colonies lit up, entire ecosystems built into artificial gravity shells, tethered to no sun, no planet. They were beautiful, alive, invisible, untouchable. Adrian Rowe stood in the observation bay of Solace Station, sipping his coffee, watching stars spin by. "Think they'll come looking?" asked his second-in-command. He smirked. "They're still looking for where we used to be." She nodded slowly. "So, what's next?" He turned, the glow of Earth's shadow fleet behind him. "We disappear. Again."